Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Gamertag and I'm back for your daily Fortnite video. Now, today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to secure your first solo win in Fortnite Battle Royale Chapter 2 Season 1, or as some of you guys are calling it, Season 11. Now, obviously with a brand new season comes a lot of new items, new metas and things like that, but this one in specific actually practically revamped the entire game. It's literally like a brand new game, and as a result of that, a lot of players are struggling to find their first win in Fortnite. My first two games, trust me, I was struggling just as much as probably a lot of you guys are. However, by playing a relentless amount of hours, I have found like literally a foolproof method on how to get your first Fortnite win solo extremely easy and get several countless wins after that one. So one of the main things that really comes into winning a Fortnite game is having the correct settings. Now, I'm not going to get into settings for this video because that would just make this video way too long and way longer than it needs to be. So what I'll have for you guys is a link at the top right of the screen right now that'll bring you to a video where I share with you guys the best settings for Chapter 2 Season 1 in Fortnite. But once you have your proper settings, basically you want to land at this area that I'm about to mark on the map right here. This is where you should land every single time that you play Fortnite. No matter what the bus path is, this is the best place to land for a win. It's actually connected to Weeping Woods, that's what it's considered, but it's basically just this little square kind of cutout area. And again, this is the perfect landing spot, and you guys will see why. One of the main reasons this is such a great landing spot is because it's practically isolated from majority of the map. So a lot of players will not be coming here. It's not like Salty Springs or Retail Row where a bunch of players are just constantly landing there over and over again. At most, there'll be 2 other people here. Probably about like 95% of the time I played, it was just myself. However, in the gameplay in the background, you'll see there's one other like bot that landed here. But also a really important part about winning Fortnite is building, of course, and having a lot of materials. This place has like probably close to 300 wooden pallets. So literally you can collect your max wood in probably about 2.5 minutes at most. So we already have 2 pretty main parts about winning a Fortnite match, or at least the beginning of it, out of the way. That's max materials, having a pretty safe landing spot and not being eliminated right off the bat. And then also a big important part about obviously starting off in a Fortnite game is loot and of course your inventory. Now this place has a lot of really good and almost 100% chest spawn rates, and there's also beyond that a lot of item spawns. Now this chest right here pretty much is guaranteed to spawn here every single time. And then unfortunately you guys can see I actually heard a player breaking down the wall. And then I continue on with my routine that I've been doing throughout the day. I'll basically collect some more wood, go over into this room, collect this chest, go outside, collect more wood, and then just loot the following chests and other weapons that I see around the specific area. This probably will take a few minutes to do. Again, we'll have max materials, we'll be in a safe area, we'll have a very good inventory. Pretty much you're honestly set for the rest of the game at this point. Meanwhile, everyone else probably has awful inventory and loot, has no materials and things like that. You're putting yourself at an advantage very quickly early on. Also, one thing I noticed is that the loot in this specific area is extremely balanced. I'll collect a lot of ARs, a lot of shotguns, a lot of SMGs, and I always will leave this area literally always with full health and full shield. And if for whatever reason you end up taking some damage in here, there's actually a campfire just nearby southeast of this area. Now, once I've looted this area, again, it'll probably take 2 to 3 minutes at most, and I'm practically set for the rest of the game. I'll just continue looting, I'll move towards where the safe zone is going to be. Typically that's southeast or south, because for whatever reason, the safe zone always tends to be towards the right of this area. Now, basically when I leave that area, I'll come over to this little hut right here, and it has a guaranteed chest spawn every single time right up here in this like balcony area. So I'll grab that chest, and then I'll make my way towards, again, the safe zone. Now, as I go towards the safe zone, I loot any chests or any ammo boxes that I can find along the way. This way, of course, we're setting ourselves up as best as we can for a win. Now, whilst in the gameplay, you guys can see me just making my way towards the safe zone. There's a couple things I want to mention. One of the main things about winning, especially in this season alone, is by playing very passively. So not pushing players or playing super aggressively and getting ourselves in a ton of engagements. Now, the problem with not engaging is we typically won't find a lot of good loot. However, our landing location that I shared with you guys basically makes up for that. You obviously get amazing loot from there, you get enough materials to last you throughout the game, for a majority of it at least. I mean, just look at my loot right now. It literally looks like I probably eliminated a few people, but literally you guys saw that I eliminated one person who had practically nothing in his inventory. This was all simply just by using my looting method or path that I'm sharing with you guys. So that's the main thing I wanted to share with you, is just playing passively and knowing when to engage in battles and when not to. And we'll talk more about that in the end game scenario. So basically, as you can see, before usually we even make our way into the first safe zone, over half of the players in the lobby will get eliminated. Now the thing that I find to be very important when getting a win and playing very safe and kind of like decreasing your chances of getting eliminated a lot is to move into the safe zone with the storm. Now the reason this is so important is because if you move with the storm, basically there's a lower chance of someone being behind you. If someone's behind you and taking shots at you without you realizing, then they'll be in the storm and they're already at a disadvantage. So literally this will decrease your chance of getting shot in the back by like 200%. So again, I like to move into the safe zone with the storm so no one's behind me, and then once I make my way into the safe zone, I like to remain around the perimeter of it. This kind of works the same way. This way we of course know someone's not going to be behind us or come from behind us, and also a lot of players don't reside in the perimeter of the safe zone. Most players are in the center. Most players are trying to of course get best positioning. However, for us, the best thing we can do is play the perimeter. This way we are lasting longer and of course collecting more loot and materials as the game goes on. Now whenever I see an opponent that I truly think I can get an easy elimination on, usually like a third party scenario, so when there's two people fighting and one person gets eliminated, then I'll try to push them. Now if they're too far from the perimeter of the safe zone that I was just talking about, then I won't engage. I'll just let them be and I'll let them go on, and then I'll play out the game myself. However, you guys can see in the gameplay, I was able to actually find an opponent who was pretty weak at the time and also kind of close to the perimeter where I was originally at, so I just thought it was best for me to engage. Also, I made the gameplay a little less boring for you guys to watch. So you basically want to continue the method that I just talked about following into the safe zone with the storm and then trying to stay around the perimeter of the safe zone. Now a couple times throughout the gameplay you'll see as I'm moving into the safe zone, I actually found a couple of defenseless opponents, so of course obviously my ego couldn't be put aside right there, and I had to go ahead and get a few eliminations easily right off of the bat. So again, feel free if you have such a huge advantage against an opponent to engage. Again, if these players were like building non-stop or clearly had a lot of loot and I wasn't able to get a few shots off them at first, then I probably would have just, let them be on with their game and I would have continued my way over to the safe zone. Now again, using this method, you'll pretty much always reach a point where there's going to be about 15 people remaining in the lobby. This is like the very end of the middle game. We're now nearing the end game. So basically for this, you want to kind of do the same thing. You kind of want to stay as far away from the middle as possible in the safe zone. However, it's kind of difficult not to get in battles against opponents at this point. Gameplay dies down really quickly at this point. Everything's a lot slower, so a lot of opponents will start to look at the perimeter of the safe zone and they'll probably eventually spot you out. So you guys can see I was getting sniped and shot from people in a couple of different angles, so I had no other choice but to engage. So play these out, play them as smart as you can and as best as you can, making sure not to panic, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll eventually be able to win most of these scenarios. And you guys can see in the gameplay, I'm not pushing everything that I see. I'm only taking shots at opponents when I see a clear opening and I'm able to do so. Sometimes it backfires and I'll miss my shot, but majority of the time it does pay off. Now about the time you're done fighting your opponents at this point, you'll probably end up having maybe 8 to 5 people left in your lobby. Now you want to kind of use this method again, hugging the perimeter as best as you can, and if someone takes a shot at you when they're pushing you, then you kind of have to engage. There's nothing you can really do about it, but eventually, of course, if you get past this point, which you should be able to after decent practice, you'll reach a point where there's about 4 people or 5 people remaining in the lobby, if not less. Now this is what I consider the end game. This is where our playstyle is more than likely going to have to change a little bit. So what I recommend to do is make your way to the safe zone as quick as you possibly can. So you guys can see just by that statement alone, our game style and mentality is drastically changing. The reason we want to make our way to the safe zone, like in the middle of it, as quick as possible is because if we're moving with the storm at this point in the game, there's practically barely anybody left. So again, players are going to be looking towards the perimeter and you're going to have to push. It's not like you can sit in the storm and wait it out a little bit, because the storm's going to be taking 5+ damage every second. So again, try to get in the safe zone as quick as possible for any other opponents. This way we can be the ones taking shots at them as they're moving in with the storm and basically getting pushed by the storm. And once we've reached a pretty safe area, what we want to do is we want to take shots at opponents that are open and very easy to take a shot at them. So you guys can see a couple times throughout this gameplay, I'll take shots at an opponent with a sniper that are kind of not moving around, and I know for guarantee that I'm going to hit my shot on them. This puts me at an immediate advantage. Either I get the elimination and of course eliminate somebody, or they have barely any health and I'm able to push them. Basically continue using this method again, going into the safe zone as quick as possible while still trying to play as passive as possible. And then taking shots at opponents when they're moving in with the storm at this point, and also taking open shots at opponent when you know you have a clear guaranteed shot on them. Keep doing this and you'll find yourself in the final 2 1v1 scenario. Now the main part about winning Final 2, which I'm sure a lot of you guys, this is where you choke and you obviously panic. The main thing about winning these scenarios is having high ground. High ground is so important, and also again positioning yourself closer to the safe zone than your opponent is. So high ground basically again allows us to have an overlook on our opponent, so whenever they move down below we're able to take shots at them, while it's going to be very difficult for them to take shots at us as more of our body is nowhere near as exposed as theirs. And then also again we want to position ourselves as close to the safe zone as possible without allowing them to have an open shot on us. Of course the storm will then move towards a safe zone and you'll have the advantage against your opponent. You're going to be able to take easy shots with them as they're moving towards it, and unfortunately I had no materials at this point so I wasn't able to do that. Fortunately enough though, my opponent still moved towards the safe zone like I stated, and I was able to have open shots on them with my scar, and you guys can see lo and behold I ended up getting the win. So that's essentially how you guys can get your first win solo for Fortnite Battle Royale in Chapter 2 Season 1, otherwise known as Season 11. Now if you guys enjoyed today's video or found it helpful, a like would be beyond appreciated, and of course on the contrary, if you genuinely disliked today's video then feel free to leave a dislike. Also if you're new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, then feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications. Nonetheless, my name is Gamertag. Thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.